October 8th, just 26 days from the election, and we feel good enough to take a joyride in a bulletproof motorcade. Today is post-debate breakdown day at Vote for America. We'll be talking with Molina, a former Marine, senior Lincoln Project advisor Windsor Mann, and a Republican voter against Trump from Texas. And now our host, Lincoln Project co-founder Jennifer Horn.
Welcome to LPTV and Vote for America. We're so glad that you are joining us today. It's great to have you with us. We're here, of course, as always, to make sure that your questions are answered and that you have all the information and tools that you need to make your voice heard in this election. It's so important. We're so glad that you're here. Let's talk a little bit real quickly about voter registration. Are you registered to vote? Are all the people in your circle registered to vote? Your family members, your friends, your coworkers? There are some important deadlines coming up for voter registration that we want to make sure that you're aware of. If you live in Delaware, voter registration ends. I'm looking at them in the wrong order, of course. They've got a very smart graphic up, and I've just got my notes in front of me. So if you live in New York, voter registration ends on October 9th. The same for North Carolina. If you live in Delaware, voter registration ends on October 10th. Both of these right around the corner. And then if you live in Washington, D.C., Maryland, Minnesota, Oregon, or West Virginia, your voter registration closes on October 13th. So let's make sure that you get yourself registered, and all the people in your circle are registered as well. You can go to vote.org to see whether or not you're registered, to confirm, and then to learn everything you need to do to make sure you get registered by those deadlines. Can't vote if you're not registered to vote. So we want to make sure that you have all the information you need for that. Let's see, moving on, everybody, moving on. We know that the big talk of the day is the vice presidential debate last night with Mike Pence and Kamala Harris. I'm so happy to welcome our co-host today to join us and have a little chat about it. She's the founder of the Marin Group and our resident independent voter. Hey, Lisa, how are you today?
I'm great, Jennifer. Really happy to be here.
It's great to have you with us.
This is going to be, yeah, you go ahead.
No, I just said it's great to have you with us. I love having you here.
Oh, thank you. So I'm excited to talk about the debate from last night. It was interesting to use one word that I'm allowed to say on television. You know that I am the chair of the Vermont Commission on Women, and in my other life, I have a business that focuses on gender discrimination in the workplace. So the interesting approach that Mike Pence had to communicating with both of the women on the stage last night really hit all my buttons, and I found, really outrageous and way too familiar to an awful lot of women.
Well, you know what? I was a candidate for federal office back in the day. Back in 2008, I ran for Congress against three very I don't know what the right word, very assertive gentlemen, we'll say, that I ran against in that primary. And I was always fascinated by the degree to which that these men would fall into the stereotypical belief or understanding of how Republican men act toward women, that just oblivious. And it's not by any stretch of the imagination. It's not all men. It's not all Republican men. But I'm always struck by these candidates when they get on stage. And you're right, we did see that last night with Mike Pence. I had the same impression of him. I was particularly struck and a little bit offended, more than a little bit offended, by the number of times that he thought he needed to give Senator Harris or the female moderator permission to do their jobs, as he was talking over them and they asserted their voice in that conversation. And he'd say, okay, yes, go ahead. Okay, you may continue, or, whatever I don't think he ever actually said you may continue, but whatever language he used, it was really offensive.
Right.
And it's one of those things that's it's inherently sexist. I'm certain isn't sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to put this girl in her place. But that's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what he's trying to do. We have a great little video clip from the debate last night. I think that kind of highlights some of this. Let's share that.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait,
I'm speaking. If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then
Please.
have a conversation, okay?
please.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President
So
Pence. Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place, that
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
this is a president who has put the
Thank you,
health
Vice
of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be
Thank you, Vice
proud of the
President.
sacrifices they have made. It's saved
Thank you,
countless
Vice
American lives.
Well, let's
So
get
no, but Susan, this is important.
Susan, I
and I
have
want
to
to add,
weigh
but
in
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh in.
speaking.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us, if
President
we
Pence.
did everything right.
Vice
Now,
President
one
Pence.
life lost is too
Thank you.
many, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice
But at
President
that
Pence. Thank you.
view-
Thank you, Vice President
So
Pence. Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place, that
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
that
Thank you,
treated
Vice President
respectfully,
Pence. Thank you, Vice President. Thank you,
neighbors
Vice
and
President.
all of our minorities
Thank you,
will
Vice President.
always stand with
Vice
us from
President
day
Pence,
one, and
thank
it has
you. Your time
improved
is
the
up.
lives of
Thank you, Vice
record
President Pence.
unemployment, record
Vice
investments in
President Pence, your
education.
time is
and
up.
good-
Thank you, Vice
I'd
President.
like to respond.
Thank you.
Warning
Thank you,
you
Vice President.
increased reform.
Thank you, Vice President
We fought for
Pence.
education.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll do it for 4
Thank you.
I think that was a really powerful thing for women voters to see, Lisa, to watch Kamala Harris own her position on that stage. You know, one of the things I said last night to somebody else was that a lot of people are looking at it to see if, to see if she could hold her own against Mike Pence. And I think what ended up happening in that debate as it unfolded, the dynamic shifted significantly. And it was Mike Pence struggling to hold his own against Kamala Harris. You know, and for me, I look at it, you know, Kamala Harris and I do not share a whole lot of probably political philosophy, or, you know, we certainly don't land at the same place on the political spectrum. But as a woman Republican, watching her take control and take command and assert her voice, I found that very, not just powerful, but persuasive.
Yeah, I think a few people involved in that debate learned some things last night. I think the folks who prepped Mike Pence probably should have pointed out in advance that if they are trying to woo female voters, particularly suburban women, treating a woman like that on the stage is probably a really bad idea. I think the moderator might have learned that the way to stop a man from talking who is behaving that way is not to continue thanking him over and over again. I don't think that was particularly having the impact that she wanted. And the thing that really struck me in watching how Harris had to handle herself on the stage last night is, you know this, Jennifer, women are very often put in this position that if we assert ourselves and we try to take command of a conversation, even when it's our turn to speak, we can be branded as being assertive in a bad way. You used that term before to describe the men you ran against. And for men, assertive is good. For women, assertive is not necessarily good. You know, we have Donald Trump out there this morning calling Kamala Harris a monster for the way she behaved in the debate last night. And there's a racial issue that we really can't ignore. That line that you have to try to walk as a woman is already difficult, but for a Black woman to not be branded immediately as being the angry Black woman and being overly aggressive and too assertive, you know, she has to make sure she's smiling even when she wants to, hit him over the head with a fly swatter. It's just, she was in a tough position. And I do wonder if she was able to see that fly as far away as she was, because I would not have been able to keep
We'll
a
get
straight
to that
face.
fly for sure. We'll get to that fly before this is over. But I really do agree with you, and I think, frankly, that Mike Pence would have behaved exactly the same way, regardless of her race. I think that for Mike Pence, he has a very different, at best description, outdated perspective on women and how you treat them and how you conduct yourself with them and around them and engage with them and everything else. And I think that you're right. I certainly confronted that more than once. I have confronted that more than once in my years in politics, that, the idea that women and I the president it's as if he's making our argument for us every time he picks up his phone lately and tweets, calling Kamala Harris a monster. How grossly offensive and inappropriate is that? go ahead and criticize her answers, support your guy in the race. Like we get all of that. But Kamala Harris is an accomplished, intelligent, educated, successful woman who has achieved a historic it is a historic achievement that she is on that stage to begin with. For the president of the United States to come out and call her a monster, it's completely reflective, I believe, of Donald Trump and of Mike Pence to stand in that moment and conduct themselves in that way. And to your point, it's going to cost them with women voters. It's going to cost them. Period. The days of Republican women. The days of women waiting their turn or waiting for some man in the organization to tell them it's their turn are past. The days of Republican women tolerating that kind of bullshit from the men in our party is past. Like it's over. And I think this is really going to cost them.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing in the world Donald Trump should be doing is saying anything either in a interview that he's doing or tweeting anything out that reminds women of what a monster toward women he has been. The word he chose to use about Kamala Harris was exactly the way so many women have come to feel about Donald Trump, with not just all of the women he has been credibly accused of either harassing or assaulting, but all of the things the way he has treated female reporters throughout his nearly 4 years in office now.
Calling them
just
stupid.
Constantly, just constant forms of degradation and intimidation toward women. And then he goes on the day after the debate and makes sure if it wasn't offensive enough to you last night from Mike Pence, here, let me give you an extra helping of it this morning in case any women have forgotten what our attitudes toward you are.
Just how awful we are. You just said something that triggered a thought for me, though, when you said, this is the president saying, in case you weren't offended enough by Mike Pence. I bet Donald Trump watching that debate thought Mike Pence wasn't aggressive enough, wasn't, you know what I mean? Like he probably watched him thought that Mike Pence was too soft, too laid back, and so he had to add that monster into it to try to achieve what he wanted to see Mike Pence achieve. So it was, you and I, Lisa, are amongst probably the minority of Americans who are just watching every minute of politics, including the debate. But I thought it'd be interesting to see what other people, especially folks who watch our show, what they thought about it. So we dropped a poll right after last night asking who won the debate, who you all thought won the debate. And since he played such a key role, we had to include the fly, of course. So Kamala Harris, I don't think it's a huge surprise. 69.1% of our viewers and the folks who voted in that poll thought that Senator Harris won that debate. I think that they were right. I will say I think Pence did better than a lot of people expected him to do in certain ways. But I think Kamala, there's no question that she won that. Pence comes in amongst our viewers at a 4.9. But the fly outpaces the vice president significantly with 25.9% of our viewers thinking that the fly won the debate. And I believe you can now follow Mike Pence's fly on Twitter, which I thought was certainly the most hysterical moment of the night. That was pretty great that Mike Pence's fly now has more Twitter followers than, most people on Twitter is pretty fantastic. Yeah, it kind of cracked me up a little bit. So with that, we're going to move on to our first guest for the day. We are very, very happy to have this gentleman with them. Lou Molina he's a Vietnam veteran. He's also a Lincoln voter. He sent us his story by video. And before we get to chatting with Lou, I just want to introduce you to him in his own words.
When Donald Trump says we're suckers and losers, he's lying. He has no idea what it is to be honorable. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1965 to 1969. I did a tour of duty in Vietnam. I was a mortarman. I was proud to serve in the 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines. I survived 13 major combat operations and was wounded in Operation Hastings. When Donald Trump says that we are suckers and losers, I was reminded of my friends. They weren't suckers or losers. They were honorable men. A word Donald Trump has no idea what it means. They would share their last drink of water with you. When Donald Trump says we're suckers and losers, he's lying. He has no idea what it is to be honorable. Donald Trump is a disgrace to the United States of America.
Lou Molina, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for sending us that video to share your story. It's great to have you with us.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
And Lou, I have to start by thanking you for your service. I'm grateful. I'm a Marine mom, and I just want you to know I'm grateful for what you and everyone who served with you has done for our country. I can't say it enough. It comes from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. So Lou, let's talk a little bit more about this, your message in that video, and about this election. You have voted for Republicans and Democrats in your lifetime. You're not an overly partisan guy. What was the moment for you where you made that firm decision that you could not vote for Donald Trump?
Well, it came very early in his campaign, when he came down the escalator, and I'm of Mexican descent, and immediately he goes into denigrating a whole race of people. I thought to myself, holy Christ, this guy's going to get shot, or going to get me shot. And I immediately thought, well, this campaign is over. I was totally wrong. I mean, he caught my attention, but he also caught the attention of other people.
Yeah,
So
Lou,
that
I think a lot of Americans felt the same way. I think what you're expressing is, is something that was very, sounds familiar to people who are listening to this show right now, that they felt the same way. What do you think about that? Kind of as how it unfolded. He came down that escalator talking about Mexican Americans and his entire campaign in 2016, and then we saw it bleed into his presidency, and now is into his campaign for re-election. So much of what Donald Trump campaigns on and how he speaks to the American people is rooted in racial division and the extraordinary damage that leads to. Like, I'd like you to just share a little more of your thoughts on that. Do you think that the president is genuinely bigoted? Is he just politically taking advantage of the worst among us, trying to advance himself? And as somebody who, you feel that that's directed at you, you're targeted by what he says. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, he plays the game that many politicians have played before. It's divide and conquer. I mean, he hit a special spot to many of our fellow Americans that it caught their attention, and they began to listen to it. And as it continued, he keeps it up. It generally divides us. I've spoken to some Trump supporters, and I see them in two classes: the individuals that they're hardcore, but many of them are that I've spoken to that will talk and listen to you, and I'm beginning to believe that some of them are sorry for voting for him, and they might not come out and tell you, but like a lot of all of us, we don't like to admit when we make a mistake, so they're not going to tell you. But I think secretly what's going to happen when they vote is they're going to vote for Joe Biden.
And what do you say to those? You said you break them down kind of into two groups, and the ones who are sort of sorry for it, or you think their minds they might be regretting it. What do you say to them, Lou, to try to persuade them to take that, put that country before party, action, and to change their vote this time around? What do you think is the most effective argument for those folks?
Well, I think we all see what goes on a daily basis. I mean, most of us are used to paying attention to politics peripherally, where we see it, out of the corner. Yeah, it's on TV, but this guy, he's on TV every day. I mean, for what? Saying crazy stuff. Uh, Joe Biden brings us back to some normality. He's a decent human being, and it shows. We're in his entire political life, and that's pretty hard for them to. They the what they tried to essentially tell us that he was a senile, and what is quickly disproven by his performance at the debates and when he gives his speeches. So that argument for them is gone, and I think a lot of them are finally realizing that he is the better candidate by tenfold. I mean,
Yeah, I hope that you're right. I hope that you're right. These are such important conversations that we all need to be having with folks in our lives like that. So, Lou, you survived 13 combat missions in Vietnam. Your service to our country was extraordinary. So many others like you out there. Your story represents thousands of other people's stories, other service members, whether it's Vietnam or after that. What is it? What do you think? Like, what is it? What does it make you feel in your heart when you hear the commander in chief refers to members of the military as suckers and losers and idiots?
well, that's two of these subjects that are difficult, but I immediately, I was angry at first when I heard it. Uh, but then my thoughts went to the people I knew in Vietnam and the people I knew throughout my tour of duty in the Marine Corps. Uh, I knew those. I mean, to me, they were living human beings. I know they're faded memories now and sketched on the wall, but it makes you angry. And the men that I knew were good guys. I mean, you can't hardly imagine the physical aspects of hot steaming jungle, and you're so tired, and your buddy gives you a hand with something, a piece of equipment that just you can't go on another step, and somebody reaches out to give you a hand or reaches to get you out of a dangerous situation when he himself is putting himself in danger. I mean, those guys aren't losers. The guy that comes back for you under fire to help you, how can you call him a loser? Uh, it's more than upsetting, and it also reminds me of things that you really don't want to be reminded of.
Lou, listen, thank you so much for being here to tell your story today. And there, all I want to say, like, there are no faded memories for many of us. The service that you and your brothers who were in Vietnam with you, it lives in our hearts. We don't forget it. These are not faded memories for many Americans. I just hate that that's how you and others feel. Thank you so much for what you did for me and for my family and for our whole country, for your service. Thank you so much, Lou, for being here to share your story today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Lou Molina, one of our Lincoln voters, Lisa, I had to get myself under control because I teared up yesterday, and then I have to stop this. And then listening to him talk about, the people in the people he served with in Vietnam being there. How can you call them suckers and losers when they're there, right next to you? I just think that goes to the heart of what is so wrong with Donald Trump and his and it just encapsulates what to me so clearly disqualifies him to be commander in chief.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who not only did he not serve, but he dodged the draft, and other people went in his place because he had money and influence to be able to find ways around it with, silly doctor's notes. So that he thinks that he can now sit in judgment of anyone who has been willing to serve, whether they were drafted or it was voluntary service. We can't begin to measure what it is they gave for this country, whether or not they came home. And
Right.
one of the things I really appreciate about Joe Biden is the passion that he displays when he talks about this is real. These people are real. He keeps a list with him at all times of how many people we have lost overseas, and it's personal because of his son's service. There is just a recognition and appreciation that Joe Biden and Dr. Biden show that Donald Trump, he could never, whether it's just a psychopathology or it's just a cruelty, he is never going to understand what service on any level really means and the value that it has.
And I'm not sure, frankly, if I even care anymore why it is. We've all spent 5 years talking about his psychopathology and his, is he just a mean guy? Is he just why does he get pleasure out of being cruel to people? The degree to which he demeans others who have accomplished so much in any of a number of other ways. I frankly, as we approach this cycle, as we approach election day, I just don't care anymore what his problems are inside his head. I care about the extraordinary damage that he has done to our country and making sure that we all take the action that we need to do to make sure that it ends here, like it ends now. And to your point about Joe Biden, the fact that he was able to inspire his children to serve in the way that they did, to volunteer for the military, I think that says a lot about Joe Biden and Dr. Biden as well. So I cannot agree with you more. And I'm just so pleased that Lou was willing to share his story with all of us right now, folks. And we've got a lot more of great show coming back for you, including a couple of more guests. So stay with us. And we're going to take a break and share a little bit with you from the Lincoln Project.
COVID-19 has affected practically everybody. Because we're senior citizens, as they say, our mobility has greatly changed, and we can't visit our children, our grandchildren. We can't do our normal activities. More than that, I think that we have two pandemics. We have COVID-19, and we have a very virulent pandemic of Trumpism and Trump. And whereas it might take some time to get rid of COVID-19, to have a vaccine and listen to the science, we can begin to rid ourselves of the dangerous Donald Trump. And I'm counting on the Lincoln Project to help. We need all the help we can get.
Dear daughters, we want so much for you. We want you to grow up proud and strong in an America that believes in you, believes in your worth, believes in your potential to be whomever you want to be, free of name-calling.
Crazy Nancy. She was nastier than even Pocahontas. That fat, ugly face of hers.
Free of body shaming.
She would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
Free of bullying.
That's okay, I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry? Where ambition is applauded, not vilified, because ambition is not a dirty word. Where confidence is celebrated, not torn down. Where there is no height you cannot reach. We want you to be proud to be nasty. Nasty isn't a four-letter word. It's who you are. Strong, determined, brave. This is the America we want for you. For you, dear daughters. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Welcome back to LPTV and Vote for America. I want to dive right in with our next guest. I'm so excited to have this really amazing, kick-ass woman here with us today. Monica Rayhaft is a lifelong Republican. She voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and soon after that regretted her vote. She joined Republican Voters Against Trump to spread the word and try to get people to vote for Joe Biden. So, Monica, I am so excited to have you here today. Welcome to Vote for America.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you here. You're one of those fantastic voices that we need more of. So thank you for joining us. As I mentioned in your intro, you voted for Donald Trump in 2016. And
yes. Thank you for telling the world again.
Sorry.
I know.
I know you regretted that decision. Shortly afterwards, what was it that kind of hit you after you had cast that vote?
Well, really, I think that, just the cascading amount of information that came out after he was elected. I know there was, plenty of evidence before the election that I didn't, I kind of discounted as, here's the attack ads kind of thing. But really just his own words, after he would make press, speeches or press conferences or whatever, and just started to see that he wasn't behaving as someone that I thought would accept the mantle of the office, the weight of it. And I started having concerns then.
Yeah, I think there was an expectation that a lot of us had that maybe the weight of the presidency after the election was going to make him pivot and he would become a more responsible human being. That doesn't seem to be what happened. But so you saw that, and he wasn't who you hoped he would be, and now you're speaking out publicly, which is so incredibly brave. And you're living in an area of the country where you're surrounded by a lot of folks who still do support the president. So why is it you feel your voice is important to have out there?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think it's amazing the work that Lincoln Project, RVAT, the work that conservatives are doing to say, look, it's okay. You are, our loyalty should be to the Constitution of the United States and to what makes America a place that's egalitarian, prosperous in the sense of true prosperity. And so, I don't care. Yes, I'm totally embarrassed that I voted for Donald Trump. It's embarrassing every day when I think about it. But what I can do now, and I can't do anything about that now, but what I can do is say, wake up, get out of your cult robes, open your eyes to reality. Just follow his Twitter feed. If you think everything is fake news, that's fine. Follow his Twitter feed. Listen to his own words. And with an open mind, just open your mind a tiny bit. It doesn't take much to see the reality of his situation. And that is a person who is unhinged and not engaging in reality, ever. So I feel like I'm responsible because of the vote. I feel a responsibility to talk to anyone who will listen respectfully and see if I can change their mind.
Well, you've taken that responsibility on in, as I said, a really brave way, and a way in which we have not seen elected members of Congress be willing to do. So it is now not just the president. So what do you hope we are going to start hearing and seeing both before and after the election from people who've been willing to support Trump and kind of sell their souls to do it?
What am I hoping to see from them? That they come to a point that they put their country over this cult that they're in. I think I've mentioned before, I don't recognize these people as Republicans. They don't reflect the values of the Republican Party that I've always voted for. I'm 51. I have voted Republican in every major election, at least for governor and president. In 2016, I voted for Trump because I just had concerns about, Hillary Clinton. I I would vote for her 10 times over now, knowing what I know now. Knowing now what the lack of respect we would have from the international community, knowing now, just the absolute bifurcation of our society into Trump people and non-Trump people, and to see our society so incredibly divided. So what I would hope is that they would wake up. I don't know that they will. I mean, I think there's a base that's just pleased to be ignorant and angry and want what they want, primarily for the white folks in this country to be so bold. And I don't think that's going to change. I'm a little nervous about what will happen after Joe Biden wins, because I do believe he's going to win. But in terms of how they might handle the election, of course, if they're willing to even believe that he lost, because there's 5 million fake ballots out in China or whatever, allegedly. So
right. Well, there are definitely people who are never going to change their minds, but there are people who are on the fence and are trying to make that final decision about whether to vote for Trump or to vote for Joe Biden this time. Is there a message that you think you and other people who voted for Trump in 2016 can get across to those people who might be on the edge?
Right. And, I think maybe to the extent that to my evangelical friends, I've been an evangelical for 30 years. I think to the extent that I can show them data that says that, Planned Parenthood funding hasn't gone down any under this administration. They haven't passed any legislation that supports what happens after that woman chooses life. How do we support her financially? How do we give her education options, free childcare, free health care, that kind of thing? So I think that we can, I think there are areas that you can kind of whittle away at and talk about the fallacy of the Trump administration, kind of discuss how, the Republican values have diminished. They don't really exist under this administration, this all authoritarian nonsense, TikTok and whatever. I mean, dictators do it. It's not part of our free society, right? So in those areas where I can try to make a difference, you can kind of engage there, but it's difficult. People get so angry. So the best I can hope for is a few people that I've talked to have just said, fine, I won't vote. That's good enough for me. If they just don't vote at all, that's good enough for me. And so, changing hearts and minds is all you can do, one person at a time, and hope that people are willing to be honest. I mean, you just need to be just damn honest and realize I've made a mistake. This is not somebody who has my country's best interest at heart. And be honest about it. Be a grown-up. People make mistakes. Change your mind. It's okay. It's totally okay.
Well, I want to thank you again for being one of those people willing to be out there saying I made a mistake and trying to talk to other folks. Those are tough conversations. So thank you again, Monica. We really appreciate you coming in and talking with us today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thanks so much for the work you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, she's fantastic, Jennifer. I had a chance to talk with her a little bit before too, and she is having those tough conversations, and it's inspirational that there are people willing to, in their communities and their families, have these difficult one-on-ones.
Just having the
with
courage.
folks.
It takes courage to speak up, especially if you're surrounded by people who have an opposing view to you. So it takes courage just to be willing to speak up, whether or not you're able to convince people to your side, as just being in the arena, being in the fight, being willing to get out there. And she talked also about how, sometimes it can get ugly, how it's not always easy. It's not always pleasant. But we don't have to engage in the ugliness. We can maintain our dignity. Right. We can stay focused on the issues. We can have conversations in a respectful and persuasive manner and not allow ourselves to get drawn into the Donald Trump ugliness of these times that we live in right now. I was really impressed by her. She's very calm, very, very confident, very, very sure of her position. And like I said at the beginning, I think it takes courage to do what she's doing.
Yeah, it sure does. It is not an easy thing to do. And the comment you just made about the way we can have these calm, respectful conversations and how powerful those can be. We saw that on the debate stage with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And we saw how much more persuasive and welcoming the way Joe Biden was talking versus Donald Trump. People are, that moved numbers. So, folks, don't be discouraged with the conversations you're having. There really are those people out there who are still thinking about it and are willing to reconsider the vote that they cast in 2016 and vote for Biden this time around.
Yes, and I would say the same about Senator Kamala Harris last night as well. I still enjoy her. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking now. She didn't try to get louder than him. She didn't try to push him off the stage. She's like, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking now. And she just commanded such attention and authority in doing so. I loved that moment. So Lisa, we talked earlier in the show about making sure that you know that you're registered and not missing those registration deadlines. Here's a thing that you can do right now. You can go to vote411.org. And this is in particular for those first-time voters. Make sure that you are registered or get registered. You go to vote411.org. You can register to vote there. You can find your polling place. You can see what's going to be on your ballot. You can check to see what kind of identification is required on election day for when you vote. And of course, all of this is to push you out there to vote, to make sure that you vote. And this is an opportunity for everybody in our audience to reach out to those first-time voters, folks who maybe haven't engaged in the political process, over the years, or those young people that you may have in your life who have not previously voted. They can go to let me make sure I get it right for you. Vote411.org. So that's a thing that you can do right now. And for the moment, we're going to take a quick break, share some more with you from the Lincoln Project. And when we get back, we have another great guest waiting for you.
Is adultery no longer a big deal in Indiana and in America? I'd just love to know your thoughts. I, for one, believe that the seventh commandment, contained in the 10 Commandments, is still a big deal. It's the most important promise you'll ever make. And holding people accountable to those promises and holding people accountable to respecting the promises that other people make. To me, what could possibly be a bigger deal?
You can do anything. Grab them by the...
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Our nation is hurting. More Americans have died in the last 3 months than ever before. The worst economy since the Great Depression. Anger and division. It's time for us to come together and remember who we are, Americans. Joe Biden is the president for this moment. A man tested by tragedy, proven in a crisis, a leader who acts through compassion and strength, not anger and weakness. Standing with him, Kamala Harris, a strong voice for a better America, daughter of immigrants, a passion for justice, a happy warrior in the battle for the soul of America. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is the America we believe in, where hard work means more than family wealth, where compassion and kindness are strengths, not weaknesses. This is the America of our better angels, the best of America. Strong, compassionate, determined. On November 3rd, a new beginning. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's time. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
And welcome back to LPTV and Vote for America. We're going to jump right into it with our next guest. Windsor Mann is a commentator and a writer. He serves as a senior advisor to us here at the Lincoln Project. It is very much my pleasure to welcome you to the show for the first time. Hey, Windsor, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Always good when I'm here on LPTV, getting the word out to voters across the country. So, Windsor, we're really into it at this point. Voting has already started in a number of states. We've had one presidential debate. Last night we saw the vice presidential debate. I know that you didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing straight through last night, but let's start by just give me your give me your snapshot. Where are we in the race now? We're 2 debates in. We've got just about 3 weeks, a little bit more until Election Day. Where are we? Where do you think the candidates are right now?
I have to say I'm feeling extremely good. I'm not complacent, but I feel extremely good. I mean, the poll numbers for Trump are so bad. There was even a poll recently that it was pretty close in South Carolina. That his campaign is completely out of money. They're having to pull ads in all these swing states. I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm also very, very glad that the Democrats nominated Joe Biden instead of Bernie Sanders. That was one of my biggest fears. And Biden, a lot of my pro-Trump friends were thinking it was going to be Bernie Sanders, and they were saying they'd vote for Biden or Bloomberg. And now that it is Biden, they're really having to, ask themselves whether voting for Trump is the right thing. I think it would take just beyond a miracle for Trump to win at this point. And also, I'm really not worried about people not voting because they're complacent, because it's an act of catharsis. I voted the other day and it felt amazing. I worked on the Bush campaign in 2004 and I put my heart and soul into that campaign. This felt way better. It felt really good. So I think a lot of people, even if they think Biden will win, they'll want to vote just because it feels good. And also, they don't just want to win; they want to win in a landslide. And so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I do think there's something really empowering about making your voice heard. Like whether you're dropping the ballot into the box or you're, putting your absentee ballot into the mailbox, there is something about feeling like you've sort of taken control a little bit and you're making your voice heard in all of this. You made a great comment a couple of minutes ago, because it's something I hear all the time from Trump supporters, and during the primary, especially, where they said, if you can't, the Democrats are a bunch of socialists. You can't vote for you're voting for socialism. You're going to get Bernie Sanders. You're going to get Elizabeth Warren. But we didn't. We got Joe Biden. What do you say when people say to you now that the Democratic Party has nominated Joe Biden, a fairly moderate guy by today's standards, and they're trying to still make this argument that, you're going to get socialism?
Well, there's not much you can say to those people. I think those people are kind of a lost cause, because they're not really using reason to assess politics, and they're just repeating Trump talking points. Biden has rebuked the radical left socialist Dems, or whatever that Trump says. He's not on their side. He's kind of a Clinton Democrat, and a lot of the hardcore left, they hated Clinton because I used to work with Christopher Hitchens, and he was an avowed Marxist socialist, and he hated Clinton because he was too centrist. And I think Biden is kind of the second coming of that. So if they don't get that, then it's kind of, there's not much you can do. But I don't think there are many people like that. So I wouldn't worry about it. And also, I wouldn't waste your time with those people. I would waste your time on, not waste your time, but spend your time on the voters you can get, rather than just have conversations with hardcore Trumpists. Just talk to reasonable people. And that's what I try to do.
Sure. I think there's an argument for people to hear that Joe Biden does not represent the far left of his party. I think that's an important thing for us to talk about. And I also think, and we saw this, it was front and center in both debates, and that is the president's and this administration's response to the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and their failures, I would say, across the board. And of course, last night, Senator Harris held Vice President Pence accountable for the fact that he is leading the commission, that leads the committee that, that is responsible for sort of laying out our response to that, to Corona on behalf of the president. So talk to me a little bit about that. I would make the argument that it is probably the single most persuasive issue in this campaign. To what degree do you am I right? Am I wrong? To what degree do you think that the president's handling of the coronavirus is impacting the outcome of this election?
I think it's huge, not just because of how people care about COVID, but it encapsulates so well how bad the president is at managing things. I mean, and how divorced he is from reality. So it's just kind of a microcosm of everything we already knew about him. He can't manage. He's incompetent. He hates scientists. So it kind of just puts it all right there for you, and it's costing lives. So it just kind of shows how bad it is to have him in a crisis. And Trump, for a lot of people, was fun in 2015, 16, and maybe 2017 because he was upsetting the status quo and he said things that other politicians didn't say. But now when you're in a crisis, you don't want a comedian as your president. You want someone who can actually fix problems. And Trump, he's adept at complaining about problems, but he's bad at solving them. And so, I mean, he's a demagogue, but demagogues become popular by talking about things that people do care about, which he did in 2015 and 16 by talking about political correctness and immigration. These are things that other Republican candidates were not talking about. But now he's talking about everything that voters do not care about. He's talking about his Twitter account and Goodyear tires and all this stuff. He's doing everything he can not to talk about the pandemic and the recession and America's standing in the world. So he's just incredibly increasingly divorced from the demos, the electorate. And I think it's just so obvious. No one wants to hear him complain about himself and hear his self-pity. And that's all he's done for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. He's kind of a master at distraction, at trying to send his supporters' attention elsewhere. I think that strategy is failing for him in this moment, at least. And Windsor, our listeners on the show had questions for you as well when they heard that you were coming on. We put the word out. And so my co-host, Lisa Senecal, is here, and I believe she's going to share some of those questions with us.
I am. Hi, Windsor. Really happy that you're here with us today.
Hi.
We do try to bring voices in from the folks who are viewing the show, so we did want to go ahead and share a couple of questions from the viewers today. The first one is coming from Bree in Dayton, Ohio, and Bree asks, what happens if Trump refuses to debate Joe Biden? Does Biden get that time? Has something like that ever happened before? And do you expect that would affect polling numbers?
I don't think it will affect polling numbers, but it may. I mean, I really want Trump to debate Biden again because the last one was so bad for Trump. And I'm of the opinion the more we see Trump, the better, because he is just so ghastly that I don't remember the last time a candidate just refused debates. They've had arguments about them before, but I guess the last time in 1980 they just had one debate. But that was just kind of the thing that, I mean, we didn't start the 3 debate format until 1984. But I'm so upset. That's the worst news of today, is that Trump doesn't want to do a virtual town hall, because I was so hoping he would, because his first town hall was so bad too, because he could not relate to voters, and then his first debate was terrible too. So it will change poll numbers in the sense that it won't get worse for Trump, I guess, which is unfortunate. But
yeah, I agree. He has been his own worst enemy throughout this entire campaign. So yeah, the more we can get him out there showing us who he is, the better. Want to go ahead and take a look at the second question that we have from folks. There we go. I'm very concerned about white nationalist violence starting a week before the election. I keep track of the chatter on different social platforms they use, and there's a lot of talk going on about this. What are your thoughts on that, Windsor?
I'm worried about it too. I'm not freaked out about it, just because I don't think there are that many of them. I mean, 10 of them can create a lot of trouble, but I think if it's a resounding defeat for Trump, it's just going to be totally pathetic for them to go out. If it's close, I could see there'll be more of them if it's a close election, but if it's not, and also I have faith in law enforcement. I don't buy that law enforcement is for pro white nationalist violence. I'm pretty confident. I have faith in America that it'll be okay. I may be naive, but I'm not terribly worried.
Windsor, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of the show, for taking questions from our audience especially. We love to give them the opportunity to make their voices heard as well. It's great to have you with us. We appreciate you making time. Have a terrific afternoon, Windsor.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Lisa. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Lisa, those were good questions
Jennifer,
from the audience.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
We've been getting in some fantastic stuff, and we're gonna talk about a few more of those questions in just a minute. But I want to take just a moment to encourage folks to keep having those come into us. You can respond to us on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. We have a phone number that you can reach us at. You can email us, record a voice memo and send that to us. We just really want to find ways to incorporate your voices and make sure that we are hearing what you're concerned about, what you're interested in. We've got 26 days until November 3rd. Voting's going on. So we really want to hear from the folks out there as much as we possibly can. So keep all the good stuff coming to us. We're going to go ahead and jump back into a few more of our viewer questions. And the first one that we have is a question that came in from Susie on Facebook. Why is Trump stopping coronavirus relief talks when the Fed chairman just said that no COVID relief means economic disaster? That's a good question, Jennifer. I think a lot of Republicans were asking the same thing.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, that really just strikes at the heart of where America's feelings are right now. We continue to suffer from this president's intentional strategic mismanagement of the coronavirus, continuing to over 210,000 Americans have lost their lives. We're continuing to see spikes in the majority of the states across the country. It's continuing to have an immeasurable economic burden for some of our families. And the president just pulled this stunt yesterday or the day before, whenever, God, in the world of Trump, I never even know what day it is. But, this ridiculous stunt that he's just walking away from negotiations on this. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean that the folks in Congress couldn't still take this up and put it together and get it done and send it to his desk and let him be the one to say, no, I'm not going to sign it. But, why would he do that? Why would Republicans remain silent when he does that? I think it's because in his mind, it is more important to look strong than to be right or to do the right thing. And I think that he has some sense in his head that anything to do with the coronavirus is bad for him. I think he understands that. And I think he's like, I can't explain it. I'm just realizing I'm trying to make sense of something that makes no sense at all. I'm sure that in Donald Trump's brain, there's some kind of strategic thought that he thinks this is going to move him forward or maybe make him look stronger with his base or something. I don't know. It's bad for America. It's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, it is. It's really unfortunate that we have a president who doesn't understand that you can be strong and compassionate at the same time, that showing compassion is a strong thing to do. And so he thinks that throwing out this crazy abandonment of trying to help people is somehow a show of strength. And I don't think that's what down ballot Republicans in vulnerable races are thinking was super helpful. But they have no control over Donald Trump, and they ceded any that they could have had a long time ago.
Yeah. All those Republican senators who are going to lose their seats on November 3rd, they're going to all turn back and blame us and say that the Lincoln Project did this to me. All these Republicans, abandoning the party did this to me. And we gladly take responsibility for the efforts that we put into it. But the truth is, they are doing it to themselves at this point. That, you could take the Lincoln Project out of this equation, and the way that this president is acting and conducting himself, and the way that those Republicans in the Senate are responding or refusing to respond, they are, if somebody's hammering the nail in their coffins, it's themselves.
Right. Yep. All right, let's go ahead and jump on to our next question, which comes from Sherry Brown. And Sherry asks, if someone received a mail-in ballot but decided to vote in person either early or on election day, what process should they follow? Do you need to bring your ballot in with you? What is it that they are going to be able to do to not mail in the ballot and now show up in person?
Well, what we know for sure is that the rules and the process can differ a little bit from one state to the next. So yeah, bring it with you. Absolutely, bring it with you. Have it and be prepared. If you have an absentee ballot, bring it with you just in case you need it. Bring your identification, your photo ID with you, just in case your state requires that as well. And as I've said many times, tuck a snack in your pocket just in case there's long lines on election day. Much better to show up over-prepared than under-prepared.
Yep, snack in your pocket and a mask on your face, and make sure you're social distancing if you have to stand in line wherever you go. But if you have a change of heart and you do want to mail in your ballot, do that and do it right away, because we know the mail is a little funky this year, and we've got to make sure that those ballots are getting in that system soon. So
the sooner the better.
Make sure everybody's,
the sooner the better.
Yep, got to make sure you're getting counted this year. Let's go ahead and take one more question. And this final one's coming from Nadia in Pennsylvania. And she asks, as a suburban female senior voter living outside Philadelphia, I'm concerned that in my county, mail-in ballots just started being mailed out yesterday. Other than using social media, how do folks get the word out to get them filled out as soon as they receive them? So what we were just talking about, Jennifer.
Right here. This is how you do it. You tell them to tune into LPTV and watch Vote for America, where we are going to be reminding people every single day. When that ballot shows up in your mailbox, read the instructions carefully. There are several steps you have to take. Follow those steps perfectly. Fill it out. Put it in the appropriate envelope. Slide that envelope into the mailing envelope. Stamp it and get it right back in the mail. Do it the same day. Make it the thing that, when it shows up and it's in your hand, stop what you're doing, pull out your pen, get it done, turn around, walk back to the mailbox, and just put the flag up, get it out. The sooner the better. And the best way, other than social media, we are the best voices for the things that we know are important, that we're passionate about. Ask your family and friends if they're voting absentee, and if so, have they dropped it in the mail yet? Drop it on your own social media account. Ask your friends on Facebook, have you gotten your ballot in the mail yet, or dropped it off in person, whatever the rules are in your state. And the other thing you can do, Lisa, let's encourage them to, as we said earlier, you can go to vote411.org and you can share that link with your family and friends so that they have all the information they need to get their vote cast and counted as well.
Yep, that is a great segue. We want to give a reminder one more time for folks where voting is, voter registration is starting to wrap up right now, because we have deadlines coming up very quickly in New York and North Carolina. The 9th is the deadline to register to vote. In Delaware, it is the 10th. And then in DC, Maryland, Minnesota, Oregon, and West Virginia, it's the 13th. And that sounds a little farther away, but you have a weekend in between there. So if you need to go and register to vote, please get it done. It can be done online. Just get it done quickly. And then, as Jennifer was mentioning, we do want to remind folks again who are first-time voters, you can go to vote411.org and get information about how to make sure you are voting properly and you can find your polling places, you can register to vote, you can see what's on the ballot, you can find out whether or not you need to have voter ID with you. And I strongly encourage, I have two sons who are now voting age. My older son will be voting in his second presidential election, and my younger son will be a first-time presidential voter this year, and they are both voting absentee because they unfortunately are far from home this year. And so if you're a parent, take one of these wonderful opportunities to nag your children. And at the same time, you can remind them that they need to be going out and getting their flu vaccinations, because it's time to do that too. So, like hit two important things in one phone call or one text message, and make sure that your kids are taking care of themselves and that they are taking care of that responsibility that they have to participate in our democracy and vote.
Thanks, Lisa. That was fun. We've got to take more of those questions in the future. I love
that was really great.
Keep tweeting at us at hashtag Ask Vote for America. We want to hear from you. So that's pretty much a wrap for today. I wanted to make sure we say thank you to our guests. Lou Molina was with us, Monica Bailey, both of them for sharing their personal stories with us, and of course having Windsor Mann with us. And as always, Lisa, a great pleasure having you with me as well. Thank you so much for being the voice for our audience, bringing their questions and their concerns to us.
You're very welcome. Always a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to see you again tomorrow.
Terrific. And all of you at home, we're always so happy that you've joined us as well. And we hope that what we're doing here at the show is useful to you, that you're engaged by it, and that we're giving you information that satisfies and kind of answers a lot of your concerns. There's something special I want to share with you as we wrap up today. If you have not seen Joe Biden's address at Gettysburg from a few days ago, it's about 19 minutes long. I hope that you will find it on YouTube and watch the whole thing. As a Republican who still considers herself something of a conservative, I found it very moving, very persuasive, and I just want to share a little bit of it with you right now.
We have to be dedicated to our own sacred effort. The promise of Gettysburg, that a new birth of freedom was at hand, I think it's at risk. Every generation that has followed Gettysburg has been faced with a moment when it must answer this question: whether it will allow the sacrifices made here to be in vain or be fulfilled. This is our moment to answer this essential American question for ourselves and for our time. And my answer is this: it cannot be that after all this country has been through, after all that America has accomplished, after all the years we have stood as a beacon of light to the world, it cannot be that here and now in 2020, we will allow the government of the people, by the people, and for the people to perish on this earth. No, it cannot, and it must not. We have it in our hands, the ultimate power, the power to vote. It's the noblest instrument ever devised to register our will in a peaceable and productive fashion. And so we must vote. We will vote, no matter how many obstacles are thrown in our way, because once America votes, America will be heard. Lincoln said, "The nation is worth fighting for." So it was, and so it is. Together, as one nation, under God, indivisible, let us join forces to fight the common foe of injustice and inequality, hate and fear. Let's conduct ourselves as Americans who love each other, who love our country, who will not destroy, but will build.
I just loved the speech. I thought it was really powerful, and the promise of Gettysburg is in our hands. The promise of Gettysburg is in your hands. It belongs to us. And when the vice president speaks of the sacrifices of those who have gone before us, it flows through every generation. The sacrifices of people like Lou Molina, who was here today to share his story with us, and And every man or woman, every American son or daughter who's ever served and sacrificed in defense of our nation and those the principles that were fought for and defended at Gettysburg. It's in our hands. It's in our hands. And for me, I just found that very moving. Please go and find the entire speech. It was really powerful. We're so very happy that you were with us today. We're going to be back here again tomorrow, of course, at the same time on LPTV. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
This is America, and it's hurting. Right now, we're getting knocked down by the very people who should be lifting us up. Our families and our neighbors are sick, and we're being lied to. They want to scare us into believing it has to be this way. It doesn't. In the past, when change was needed, we've stepped up. Now, it's time to step up again. This moment is not about Democrat or Republican. It's about being on the right side of history. We must set aside our differences, stand together, united, and ask, what can I do to help? It's time to put people ahead of politics, to put country over party. It's time to vote for America.
Hi, my name is Brooke. I'm calling from Milwaukee, and I'm calling with the question, what would we do if the leader of the free world is exhibiting mental health issues? So in reference to catching COVID-19 and going out during quarantine to wave at supporters and also to yank his mask off when he returns to the White House, to me means he doesn't get it. So to me, something's mentally wrong upstairs, and what are the laws to protect us if the leader of the free world, there's something psychologically or mentally wrong with him? What options do we have?
Good morning. My reason for voting for Joe Biden, it's because he will bring the blood pressure of America back to 120/80. Under this administration, it has been absolutely crazy each and every hour of the day. I'm voting for Joe Biden because he would be the calm after the storm.
Hi, I'm Rachel in Portland, Oregon, and once again, our president is all the news all the time, but so many other things are happening as well, and I wonder what impact all of this and the chaos right now and the spreading of the disease, what impact that will have on the Supreme Court nomination.